the entertainment highlight of the week.
Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show. Hello.
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 Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good day.
It strictly should come before good evening.
Well, I suppose.
Good gravy.
Good gracious.
Good
Loch Ness! Ah!
There you are, the Loch Ness game. Welcome to the Benji and Nick Show. I'm not Benji.
And I'm not Nick, but what do? Well, we check out cult TV, television from the past, things you might remember, things you might want to forget, things which you think, oh, blimey, was they really covering that one? It's a whole menagerie of interesting televisual entertainment for you to enjoy. What else do we do, Nick?
Well, we do different types of podcast. We do good ones and bad ones. This, unfortunately, folks, is a bad one, so sorry about that.
It's terrible, yeah.
We do. We give ourselves the task of watching a particular programme, don't we? And then the next week we talk about it, or we talk about what we've been just watching generally recently, and we do the occasional commentary. Up until now, we've done commentaries on Death to the Daleks and Revenge of the Cybermen, two Doctor Who stories there starring Tom Baker, with the music of Carrie Blyton. That's the main qualifier.
Only one stars Tom Baker, one's John Pertwee.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. My wife has made a terrible mistake.
Just saving emails to flooding it. Nick, you claim to know Death to the Daleks, but I think you'll find that it's actually Colin John Baker, Ron Barker,
Ronald Beaker,
Ronald Beaker, Patrick Trott.
Just nearly spat my coffee out there.
But this week we're doing something rather special. We're covering the Pyramids of Mars.
Yes.
Well,
I say the Pyramids of Mars. I just realised it's Pyramids of Mars. Look, no, there's no the.
Oh yeah, you are right. You are right.
Well, that's on the DVD box. I mean, I presume they got that right.
But come on, I mean, everybody calls it the Pyramids of Mars. Like when you're talking, so nobody says I suppose maybe they do say Pyramids of Mars.
I do say Pyramids of Mars, but I thought I was being anyway. Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen. Anyway, so we'll be doing a commentary of that later. We'll also be reading out your emails, as we always do, sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com, and we'll hopefully be having a random conversation with Jamie, son of Jerry, Anderson. We just phone him basically and see what he's up to. Rumour has it he's not available. I've just got texts from him this morning, which said, let's have a look, just before we started recording. He says, I need to clone myself. I've removed the expletives. How are you? Hope Benji's just walked away. What's going on?
No, I'm listening. I'm here.
I'm listening. I'm just not in the room anymore.
Yeah,
we do a podcast where the participants just leave.
You reminded me that my phone needed charging. It was on 2%, so I thought I'd just rush to warp charge it.
So, before we do the emails, I've made a note. Well, first of all, you mentioned before the podcast that you've just watched a particular film for the first time, which I couldn't believe it was the first time for you.
Yeah, well, this is the thing, you see. As everybody knows, I'm quite a late adopter to the world of Star Trek. And I'm slowly going... Star Trek. And I'm slowly going through them all to... no, Star Trek. Star Trek. But I'm slowly going through it all, working my way through. I've seen, the original series, working my way through the Next Generation. And I was in town and I picked up, and Nick, you'll have to see this because it's quite hefty.
Oh.
This massive Blu-ray. Look at the size of that. The biggest Blu-ray box. It's the biggest Blu-ray box I've ever seen of all 10 of the Star Trek movies. So I'll been watching my way through them. Now I've so far watched Star Trek the Motion Picture and The Wrath of Khan for the first time, believe it or not. Now I've always seen bits and bobs of The Wrath of Khan, and have always... The interesting thing with these two films is that the motion picture is meant to be this dreadful piece of garbage, and The Wrath of Khan is meant to be this incredible piece of cinematic gold. Now I would like to go out on a whim here and say that both, in my opinion, aren't...
Go out on a whim?
Well, I'm going to say
it's go out on a limb.
I'm very tired.
It's a damp squid. Yes.
So, Star Trek: The Motion Picture, I can see for its faults that it's very slow paced at times, and often it suffers from the fact that it wants to be 2001: A Space Odyssey.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
However, I really enjoyed it actually because I was just because it was sort of like visual porn, really, isn't it? It's just this sort of gorgeous models and effects and
incredible effects. Yeah,
still stand up to this day. Whilst not a lot happens, I found it very amusing. And when I watched The Wrath of Khan, I kind of found myself. I love the fact that it's doing something like it's picking up a character from the original series, bringing him back, and Khan's a great character. However, I love all the action. I mean, I love all that stuff, but I couldn't help but feel like it's not as good as everybody is always rabbiting on about, and B, that it kind of, there's a big flaw in it which I think is stupid, is that Khan is meant to be a genetically superior fighter. Like his main like thing is that he's meant to be like a really ace, hot strategist and in the field of battle, but he's rubbish at it. Like they just outfox him at every turn. That there's not, and even the moments where you think he's gonna do it, you don't convincingly think he's gonna do it. I don't know. I just felt it. I was just like, they'll just defeat him. It's not going to be that hard, is it really? And it's as awful as it sounds. Obviously, at the end, it's great. And Spock sacrifices himself and all that business, and you get that fantastic scene with Captain Kirk and Spock and
in the engine room.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, a lovely bit of work. But I couldn't help but feel, and maybe it's because I've had the luxury of hearing all of people's opinions on them for years and years and years. But I just couldn't feel. I couldn't help but feel like both films have been given sort of slightly misleading representation. I don't know.
Well, no, I think you bring a beautifully fresh perspective to it. You're absolutely right about the received wisdom. Motion picture rubbish. Wrath of Khan, brilliant. Notice I pronounce it Wrath of Khan, but I don't know whether I'm right or not. But I think that the first film is directed by a really great movie director, Robert Wise. And it's a really nicely made piece of work. I think the story does lack a bit, but it's very sort of it's very Star Trek. Very, it's got a real Star Trek feel to it, and it is. And I do find that more rewarding to watch now than I did back in the day, I must say. The Wrath of Khan, I think the first one had sort of failed at the box office, so they made the Wrath of Khan. It was a lot cheaper, and someone told me that it was made by the sort of television department of Paramount.
It looks very much like that, definitely.
So it looks like a TV movie, actually. It's not as impressive. Doesn't have such a broad sweep and a cinematic feel to it. I think they may even use model shots from the first movie. Or
I noticed a few in there, and I thought, they've recycled. As you would, because why would you pay money to do new shots when the existing shots are just breathtaking?
They were on a bit of a budget, I think, and I think in a way there's that feeling that the first one had failed, so the second one they just gave it to someone eventually, Nicholas Meyer, the director, or Meyer, I don't know how you pronounce it, who I remember once I transcribed an interview with him for Starburst magazine, and he told the story of how he created it, which was that they had about three, I may be getting all the details slightly wrong, 3 different potential scripts for the second Star Trek movie, and none of them were really working, and it was all in a bit of total disarray. So Nicholas Meyer said, look, if you want this movie made, because he was also a writer as well as a director, he said, if you want this movie made, give me the 3 scripts and I'll take the best of them, of each one. I'll put it together and I'll write something. And I think I'm right in saying he's not credited as the screenplay writer because of union rules, but he essentially wrote Star Trek 2 by mining the other scripts.
I suppose that is a sensible way of doing it. And I mean, it sounds, I can imagine as well, they probably lost quite a lot of money on the original film, maybe.
Yeah. So I think he was sort of given more free rein, and I think he thought, we've got to change everything, because it didn't work last time. And he wanted it to be more military. Apparently he wanted everyone to be saluting each other, but they stopped him doing that because the Star Trek people never did salute. So bizarrely, in a kind of last gasp to do something with Star Trek that they thought had maybe failed, he sort of rewrote the template for the Star Trek movies, and all the other Star Trek movies had to be more like Wrath of Khan in the look. They stayed with the same look, didn't they? They stayed with the same uniforms and largely the same sets and so on. So, yeah, I certainly think it's more viewer-friendly, more accessible. Definitely. And exciting, and I think that's what grabbed people.
I didn't think it was particularly. I didn't think it was a bad piece at all. Like I really enjoyed it. But
you're saying it's not. You heard it was a work of genius, and it's not a work of genius.
Yeah, it was just a little bit. Yeah, it was a little bit underwhelming. And there are certain things I'm really sad that Kirstie Alley isn't in any of the other films because she
refused to do it.
It's so sad. It's such a shame because she's really good in it, I think.
Yeah, of course, she's a very good actor.
She's fantastic.
No, she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't come back. Unless I've got that wrong, but I'm pretty certain that's what happened. I think she had greater and better things to do in her life. Yeah. Also, the part of the character in The Search for Spock is nowhere near as good. So I think it may have been that she read the script of The Search for Spock and just thought, I'm just as kind of also ran in this story, I'm not doing it. So they just recast her.
That's the fair play. I'm intrigued. I'm looking forward to continuing my journey. I mean, visually it's gorgeous. I love the new bridge. I think it's wicked. I think it's really good. But with my friends who have worked for Big Finish, Tom Saunders and Joe Smith, because we're always talking about what we're watching and stuff like that. Joe Smith, I think it was, raised a really, really good point and said that this, the Wrath of Khan, really sets up what the next generation's all about. Like, that is the mould for future Star Trek in that film. And you see, there are so many qualities of the film that lead us to what is Star Trek today that I think is quite interesting. I thought, that's actually a good take on it.
I think there was a sort of real panic that Star Trek, the motion picture, had gone up the wrong alley, and so Kirstie Alley. Then with this one, they thought, no, that's it, and they grasped it with both hands. The received wisdom is also that The Search for Spock is no good, and that The Voyage Home is absolutely incredible. I think The Voyage Home was the most popular in terms of box office for quite some time, so I'll be very interested to.
I'm averaging on like a film a day at the moment. Like I'm just. It's like my evening entertainment.
It's an addiction.
Yeah, it's quite. It is. There's The Search for Spock, Voyage Home, Final Frontier, Undiscovered Country. Then it goes on to the new ones, which again have got incredible opinions about them all. No.
Okay, well, we await more Star Trek-y sort of news from you. In the zone of reappraisal, I just wanted to go back to Department S, which we forgot to mention, because after we saw that episode of Department S, and we were okay about it, weren't we? We were a little bit...
Nothing sensational, as we put.
We were saying it didn't work as a first episode. And it's very clear to me... Have I mentioned this in the podcast?
This is your revelation, isn't it? That you texted me. Yes. This is, viewers, this is very interesting. It really is. It's a complete fresh look. Carry on.
Well, there is another episode of Department S. The 6 days later or something, the one that was broadcast first and is the first episode on the DVD box set, is set. It's about an aeroplane where it's all the passengers. It doesn't matter what it's about. There's an aeroplane and it's set in the airport, right? So there's another episode that I now can't remember the title of, which has an aeroplane and is set in an airport, and they use the same sets, and even one of the same cast members, the air traffic control guy, is the same and everything, and that works as a first episode. because it has an introduction to all the characters. There's an explanation of who Jason King is and that he writes Mark Cain novels and everything. It's all in there. And I think someone said, which one should we go with first? And they said the aeroplane one. And they chose the wrong aeroplane one. And I think that's why 6 Days Later I think it was accidentally placed first. And this other episode that I can't remember the blooming name of. Anyway, this is a challenge to Rick Davey.
I was going to say, if anybody knows, Rick knows.
I think because the other aeroplane episode is given that there is no real first episode, is a much better introduction to the series. It just sets everything up and then you understand it, because your thing, having not watched Department S much before, when you watched 6 Days Later, you thought, what who's in Department S? Is this man, or is he just working at the airport? All that kind of stuff. Also, just watching many more episodes of Department S late at night, I realised that when it works, it's when they let the team of the 3 people, Annabelle, Stuart and Jason, work together more, because they tend to split them up in a lot of episodes. When they work together, those scenes of them together are really good, because they clearly, there's a lot of evidence, it seems to me, of Peter Wingard rewriting the scripts and putting in clever lines and things and making it better than the scripts. And I think some of the episodes work beautifully well, and the characters, those main characters, are really quite charming. I mean, there's heaps of sexism and nonsense, but it's really, I really got into Department S. Something else I'd like to reappraise, I always was very dismissive of the New Avengers, but I'm watching more of that and I'm really loving it. Beautifully written, fantastic music from Laurie Johnson. I mean, no wonder he gets a credit right at the top. It's like the star of the show. That music is incredible.
Was it that there was a great quote that, funnily enough, I was reading in regards to the first Star Trek film, but it was something to do with sometimes the music works around the film and sometimes the film works around the music, and I think that is a very interesting way of looking at it, because sometimes things like Laurie Johnson stuff, absolutely, it's such an identity for the show. All of his stuff is identifying music. So I think it's very interesting. New Avengers work's fantastic. The Professionals' work is fantastic.
It is incredible when that happens. It's like for the first Jack Reacher movie, our friend Joe Kramer did the music, and that music is the star of the film. And that's why when Andrew Cartmel, the ex-Doctor Who script editor, said, as a friend of mine, he's a Hollywood composer, but he'd love to write music for Big Finish. I went, oh yeah, well, who's that then? And he said, Joe Kramer. I thought, I don't know who Joe Kramer is. And he said he did the music for Jack Reacher. And I went, I want to talk to this guy, because I watched Jack Reacher and it was the music that really hit me. It was like the music from a 1960s thriller. He'd done the classic thing and it really stood out, and such a shame he didn't do I don't want to watch the sequel because Joe's not done the music.
Well, that's it. It's sometimes you can notice a difference. It's amazing, isn't it, how used to music you get and how comfortable you are with it. And I mean,
it has a huge effect on you. Most people don't even hear it in a movie. But it's absolutely driving everything, and on television as well. Also, just quickly mention Another Life, that in the podcast that you abandoned in the middle.
Oh, yes.
Jamie and I had a long conversation about Another Life, and I was telling him it really went off the rails. Now, I'm not saying it's got back on the rails, but it did improve at the end of the series. And I feel like I was really horrid about Katie Sackhoff as well, which I feel terrible about, because she's giving it everything. I feel bad. If Katie, I know you listen every week. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's one of our regulars, Nick.
She's emailed in fact. The first email.
I hate
from
you.
Katie Sackhoff. Dear Benji and Nick, what a couple of... anyway. Would you like to...
Yes, we
would. By the way, I was going to say about the New Avengers, Gareth Hunt is really good as Gambit. And we all hated Gareth Hunt. People used to say, Gareth Hunt, Cockney rhyming slang or actor. And why was everyone so horrid about Gareth Hunt? Because he was brilliant. Gambit's lovely. I think we just hated him for not being Steed.
But that's the thing, though, is that people, it's so easy to get on the hype wagon, isn't it? And get on that bandwagon of saying different things. And
And one thing we're discovering here in this podcast today and in all the podcasts we do is that the whole business of perspective, as in life, is everything. What is our perspective? And when you have the perspective of time looking back, you can look at all the strange assumptions that were made back in the day that we no longer have, and we're able to reappraise.
Absolutely. It
depends on your perspective.
It's a bit of a sort of experiment, this podcast, isn't it, in a way? But it's true, we have on many occasions changed our views of things with the passage of time.
It is an experiment in the laboratory.
Lobotomy. The bottom of the sea.
That was the way that Peter Cushing always said laboratory. Laboratory. I must go to the laboratory.
You have just reminded me of something.
You will go to the Dagobah system. That's not him. Sorry.
There's a great thing that I came across on the internet randomly, and you'll appreciate
station.
this. It was some joke article about how to speak like Captain Kirk did in the series, and this is superb. The way it's described is brilliant. It said. It says here, the real Kirk has 3 notable ways of speaking: over-punctuating certain words, leaving gaps in between words mid-sentence, and saying entire sentences really quickly.
Yes.
He speaks in a calm yet authoritative tone and has a deep voice. It is important to master all of these speech patterns. The only time diverging from this pattern of speech is acceptable is in times of extreme emotion, particularly anger. If someone has done something that annoys you, simply shout their name as loud and as quickly as possible.
Fuck!
This is It says that you can practice the speech patterns with the following guide. Where it says 1, over-punctuate the word next to it. Where it says 2, pause before saying the next word. And say the rest of the sentence really quickly after 3. So the sentence is, the 1, Enterprise 2, is stranded 2, 3 in the Delta Quadrant. So here we go. So you say, the Enterprise is stranded in the Delta Quadrant. It's like that. And that's exactly it, isn't it?
Enterprise.
The Enterprise is stranded in the Delta Quadrant. Like, it's really good, isn't it? It's really good.
I did a terrible thing once. I don't know whether I told you, when I was in a stage production of Brideshead Revisited, and I was playing various small parts. And Mark Elstob, who plays the prisoner for Big Finish now, I knew he was into all the sci-fi stuff. And I went on one day and I played this part of this character, not with an American accent. I did it with the same English accent, but I did all the William Shatner way of speaking very fast and emphasizing words like that. And I came on and the whole time I was doing it, Mark was looking at me. It was for a matinee. It's terribly bad behaviour. And as I started doing it, I thought, what am I doing? I'm going to have to do this for the whole scene now. And he was looking at me with a sort of, as if to say, you cheeky so-and-so. And then he walked up very close to me, and I don't know whether I can do the noise, and he just went... He did a perfect impersonation of a tricorder. So the whole time I was speaking, I had this tricorder noise in my ear, which the audience couldn't hear. And he was just making it and looking at me. And I think he might have even done a live long and prosper little thing with his hand at one point,
I love that he picked up on it, though, as well.
Oh, totally, straight away. A typical Mark knows all that rubbish. Should we do the emails?
Yes. So this first one here is from the Unmutual, Rick Davey. It was sent on the 24th of the 8th, 2019 at 1957.
Yes, I forgot to put this in the last one.
Yeah, 1957, good year. And it's entitled B&N Show ITC on 35mm. My dearest of gents, thanks as ever for the recent fascinating podcasts. Sorry to be picky, but Department S was certainly not the last ITC series to be filmed on 35mm film. Strange Report, UFO, The Zoo Gang, Return of the Saint are a few of the ITC shows which spring to mind, which were filmed on 35mm after Department S. Please forgive me for correcting you, as I love you both dearly. EITC you. See what I did there? And don't forget, folks, the Benji and Nick show. Good taste is easy to recognise. Rick Davey, love it.
Rick, you're totally right. I'm talking out of the back of my head.
You fool.
Thank you.
Old fool.
I'm an old fool. Thank you for that. I never thought of Strange Report. We must do that one day. Do you know Strange Report?
Yes, I do. Yes, we should. We should.
With Annika Wills in it.
It's going to be good, isn't it? Come on.
Original message it says the subject is yesterday from Luke Peatnick. Luke, hello. Hi chaps, hope you're well. On Nick's recommendation, I went to see Yesterday at my local Curzon cinema, what I believe is the last screening of the film in Sheffield. I was pleased I did. In the laboratory. I would share your view that it is, in part, slightly predictably plotted. Absolutely. However, several elements of it still managed to surprise me, and I laughed heartily throughout. The film pays a massive compliment to the Beatles, suggesting that their songs are universal and would always have been successful regardless of cultural and historical context, which is definitely arguable. It totally is. But even though I love the Beatles. But I was pleased with this decision. Apparently, the first story outline was far darker and much more a piece of speculative fiction, exploring the central concept much more fully. It was later adapted by Richard Curtis to focus more on the ethical dilemma presented by the situation and the love story. Indeed, it is very easy to see how you might write a concept-driven novel based on the film, which would involve multiple characters having witnessed the same erasing of timelines as the protagonist. So thank you, Mr. Briggs. While I am yet to brave watching Chalet Girl, yeah, I don't think I'd wish that on you, even though I love it. I am considering it, having enjoyed this film. Best wishes, Luke. Well, go on, Luke. Honestly, watch it, and then you'll lose all respect for me. Remember, I was mocked by Billy Piper.
Well, there's better, there's, as people that mock you, I'd say that's a pretty good person to
I
mock
wear that like a badge.
Yeah. No, the thing about Yesterday, I've not seen it. I've listened to the songs and they make the Beatles sound incredible because I can't stand his voice. But the other thing I would say is I've seen that bit at the end when John Lennon appears, which is amazing.
It's not at the end, but
oh, is it at the beginning or wherever it is?
No, it's during.
Wherever it is, I've seen the bit where John Lennon appears, and it's amazing. When the door opens, it is amazing. It's like, oh my god,
it's lovely. It made me cry.
It is just
beautiful,
incredible piece of work.
It's when John Lennon says to him, because of course John Lennon is not a Beatle,
just a bloke, isn't he?
Just a bloke who's had a nice life. At the end, the guy says to him, "Can I hug you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And as he hugs him, he goes, "Oh," and John Lennon says, "You are in serious need of psychiatric help." And he's tolerating him, but thinks he's completely nuts.
But it's good. I must admit, I look forward to watching that properly when it comes out. I just missed it. It was just the wrong time for me. Too much going on. Couldn't quite make it. Well, here is the next one. Here, it's the subject is a Nero Wolfe mystery from Adam Graham. Hello, Adam. Sent on the 1st of the 9th, 2019 at 4:16. Very early. Must be somewhere across the pond, I imagine.
It must be from the content, yes.
Dear Nick and Benji, when I was listening to your other podcast, that's the Big Finish podcast, I was amazed when I heard the blank looks on your face when a listener brought up Nero Wolfe. I could understand if you'd never read the books, but A Nero Wolfe Mystery was one of the best detective shows of the millennium, broadcast from 2001 to 2002. In the US, it was broadcast by A&E in the US and then came over to BBC Two. It really sounds like it'd be both up your alleys, given your preference for detectives who are complex characters. Whilst it's a bit newer than most of the material done on the Benji and Nick show, I think it'd be worth watching for an episode of the podcast. It's a period series and it's extremely faithful to its source material, i.e. novels and short stories set between 1939 and the late 1960s. A Nero Wolfe mystery features two detectives. There's Wolfe, played by Mari Charkan, who's a temperamental genius who lives his life on a strictly basis. The only reason he's a private detective is so that he can earn money to support his expensive hobbies of gourmet food and raising orchids. He lives according to strict schedule and is unavailable to anyone at certain hours of the time so he can spend time with his orchids. Wolfe can be quite mercenary mercenary, and he hates leaving his home so much that he has created opportunities for killers to do away with themselves so he won't be bothered with having to testify at trial. However, Wolf does have a sense of justice, is a defender of civil liberties, and also follows strict rules for being a great host. Wolf is able to do his work through Archie Goodwin, Timothy Hutton, who does all of the actual legwork in cases and is gifted with a photographic memory. It's very handy for an assistant, isn't it? He's a ladies' man and also one of the greatest wits in all of literature. He narrates the episodes film noir style. He's essential to Wolf doing his job, but often the two irritate each other. There's so much to love about this series. The relationship between Wolf and Archie is complex and fun. The series is great rep company cast for nearly all of the series' guest characters. The sets and the costume designs show a lot of thought and care. I could gush about the series for hours, but I hope that this has teased your molecules enough to get the DVD and give it a watch. Regards, Adam Graham, sent from a plush office chair in a 1960s New York brownstone. Oh, how lovely. Well, we'll have to check that one out.
Yes.
One for the list, isn't it?
I feel sort of told off, and I have no recollection of this, and I certainly did not see it. We should seek it out at some point, shouldn't we?
Yes, I think we should.
Sounds interesting.
It's our duty to do so.
Stylish. Yes. Okay. We should get on to the main thing. We've talked about all sorts of extra things today. We should get on to Pyramids of Mars commentary.
Pyramids of Mars, yeah.
Pyramids.
Okay, well, the rules are simple, guys. When we click play on your DVD players and you can watch it along with us.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Yeah?
Yep. Yeah, we're pretty much there.
Oh, it's stalled. Oh, no, it's just jumped. Okay, that's all right.
Well, here we are. Different title sequence to the John Pertwee one, but this was the one that we watched because we last did Revenge of the Cybermen, didn't we?
Yes, it's the same.
So it's the same one, yeah.
Now they must have gone straight on in production from that other series to make this, continue in 1975. There was a lot of Doctor Who episodes in 1975.
Well, I suppose as well you carry on with the success of it because clearly it's doing
stock footage.
Oh, the music.
It's great, isn't it?
That's such like a Moog sound, like a synthy.
Beautifully subtle. Yeah. So must all be stock footage here.
Surely, yeah.
From a BBC documentary. I wonder if anyone knows where it's from.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Probably like
now onto the set for a little bit of polystyrene being moved.
Look at that. Yeah, very heavy, wasn't it?
Marcus Scarman entering the tomb.
I love the fact that they've actually, they've taken some time to paint all the lovely sort of pictures around. It feels like a good tomb, if a little bit clean.
Yes, for the lady who designed this, I told you earlier before the podcast that I was watching the behind the scenes stuff, and she called the character Suhutek. Sutek. It was an owl, famous owl. Suhutek. So I have to say that when I was a youngster and I watched this, I did not like it.
Oh, really?
The moment I saw this just was yawn to me. I hated this kind of thing when I was a teenager. I really did.
You're more of a hard sci-fi kind of guy, aren't you?
Oh yeah, give me a spaceship and a Cyberman or a Dalek. And this reminded me of Hammer horror movies, which I didn't like as a youngster.
I think it's meant to be a bit hammery, isn't it? It's got that.
This is so much like the Hammer horror version of The Mummy.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Yeah, I mean which
has Eric Klieg in it.
Yes,
master of the world.
playing the character, the Fez character, basically.
Yeah, it's classic old. Oh, look at that! The door's opening.
the Robert Holmes. Here he gets hit by Sutek. We're going to flash a light at you and then just let go and fall over. That's it. I don't know what I'm doing. Shush.
It's one of the more famous falls.
I love this
TARDIS. I love the sound here. That wonderful wailing TARDIS noise.
Yes, it wasn't used that much, was it?
It's one absolute, just iconic.
Yeah. Lovely scene back there in the wardrobe, she says.
One of my favourite TARDIS scenes. I think this scene in particular that always sticks with me, because when Sarah sees the mask up there, the visions she sees, was when my old VHS had a huge problem and it all
I remember
went
you
wrong.
said, yes.
So for me, I expect it every time it happens.
Let me go back on a boring Doctor Who continuity thing there. He says, hello, Vicky. And then he says Victoria. But the thing is, the Doctor never called Victoria Vicky.
No.
And there was a previous companion called Vicky, so there's a continuity balls up here.
Unless it was a nod to them both. Huh?
No, I don't think so, no. It's Victoria's dress isn't it? It's meant to be, yeah. Tom's he snaps here, doesn't he? And I wonder whether this was to do with the fact that he wasn't enjoying being directed by Paddy Russell.
Well,
resign.
And so it's quite out of character for that Doctor at that time, because he's always been very jolly, hasn't he? And so to see him kind of slightly broody.
He does get a lot more broody in this season. There's your moment.
The VHS is gone. Thanks to the man who sold it to me in the market. Now, Sarah, once again, as we always say, a masterclass of selling there.
Totally. Oh, she was so good. They have the landing here.
Unless.
Oh, mental protection.
It's one of those scenes. I'm sort of forcing myself to talk through it because I just love to watch it. It's just such a good scene.
Look, I love that the camera's late on it, and the fact that they bump the camera for the landing, like the TARDIS touches down.
Really slow as well.
You see, that's sort of Paddy Russell introducing that sort of thing into it that's not strictly in continuity with the season.
These absolutely dreadfully large and unrealistic looking coffins there, sarcophaguses. It just don't look like any sarcophagus I've ever seen.
Now, of course, it's this story that is actually responsible for the unit dating mess up.
Well, there's always
because this is where they mention that units it's 1980. It's meant to be, so they were thinking about it being in the future because, of course, this was 1975.
Which is a stupid sort of thing as well, because a lot of the unit stuff is ancient looking within itself, isn't it?
Yes. That's nice beginning of a shot. You wonder why it's wobbling, but no, it's a mirror on top of an organ.
I love this gorgeous organ work there. Organ's one of my favourite instruments, so to see it like that is gorgeous. Pipe
now,
organ.
although, as we know, this story is credited to Lewis Griefer, this script, according to Philip Hinchcliffe, is a page one rewrite from the ground up by script editor Robert Holmes.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, which is probably why it's a very good script.
Yes, it has. I think Robert Holmes just went hell for leather for the Hammer Mummy and just thought, I'll just do everything. I'll just adapt that. And who will ever know?
But the thing is as well, though, is that classic thing of, if you say it's a costume drama, the BBC will give you more bang for your buck. So, it looks visually, look at the detail of that set.
Well, there must have been lots of stuff in stock that they could use as opposed to making stuff from the ground up. Although, of course, when you watch some of these beautiful online documentaries like the Terry Nation Army, they reused sci-fi stuff a lot.
Definitely, yeah.
There were a lot of control panels and things from Out of the Unknown that turned up in Doctor Who and vice versa, and
which is cool. It's of course is quite brilliant to know that all that was sort of just lying around, from decades gone by.
Now, this actor, I can't remember his name. The bald one.
The bald one.
I think he's brilliant. I always love his performance. He always gives that performance, but it's a beautiful, not by a long chalk.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as they always say.
Oh, what a great team these are. And lovely music there from Dudley Simpson.
Oh, I love it.
Sneaking in with a little bit of Egyptian.
That lovely little...
Not using the sonic screwdriver here, as you know.
I love... One of my favourite things about Tom is when things happen, his ability to suddenly move, like very, very, like they're darting out of the scene, but there's something about the way he does it I can't explain, but it's fantastic.
It's good, isn't it? It's interesting, that as I mentioned earlier, I saw in the behind the scenes thing that Liz Sladen was talking about how she hinted quite heavily that Tom did not like the way Paddy Russell worked. So, and she said that she and Tom had worked out a way of working that was beneficial to the program, but was a little bit eccentric. And Paddy Russell wasn't having it. And so it's interesting that this is such a favourite story, because it's really Tom Baker being forced to work in a way that he doesn't enjoy. Maybe that's why he's very serious in the first scene. A, because she might have said, I want you to be serious. This is a serious, weighty matter. Or B, because he was unhappy and was in a bit of a strop. I don't know which is the explanation.
Yeah, I think that makes an awful lot of sense, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, I don't know, by the way, back in that TARDIS scene where he said, that means I've lived for something like 750 years, and she says, you'll soon be middle-aged. He says that like he's thought of it for the first time. Whereas, of course, in all the later Doctor Who stories where he mentions his age, he seems, you know what I mean? It seems very present in his mind, but it's like he plays it like it's the first time he's thought of it.
And it was very sort of, as well, like it's that wonderful sort of, it almost foreshadows the, how...
Comedy walk,
having some fun there.
I love it. That's hilarious.
Sarah holding up her dress as well.
Yeah.
But it sort of foreshadows what the Fourth Doctor became towards the end as well. That moodiness and aware of his own mortality.
Oh, there's going to be trouble. A bit Carry On Screaming, that, wasn't it?
It was ridiculous. Oh, we're on location.
Just
a little bush.
Tom did it. Yeah, Tom did it. I've been stung in the face by a bush.
This guy does a great job, because when I watched this for the first, I hated him. I absolutely hated him.
Well, he's not nice. I think it's a great cast. This is a lot, the thing you notice about old Doctor Who, there's a lot of stuff with other characters. Oh,
blood-curdling scream there.
I'm sure it said that in the script as well.
Blood-curdling.
Was there a script book released of this season?
I don't know. I don't tend to follow those things, unfortunately.
Well, I don't, but one of our fantastic listeners, Chris Garrard, sent me a book of the scripts from the previous season, the first season of Tom Baker.
Yes.
And I have been reading it avidly, because it's great to see everything that got changed. And I'd just love to know how much of this has been changed. There's a whole load of stuff in Revenge of the Cybermen that clearly Tom and Liz and Ian changed.
I'll have a look for you.
And Ark in Space as well. You think things that...
That was pretty intense, wasn't it?
Yeah. You will be the second unbeliever to die. That became a favourite quote between me and my mate Nick Layton at school. We used to keep saying that to each other in ridiculous situations. You will be the second unbeliever to die. Because by now we were taping these, so we were listening to them, And I would go round to his house after Doctor Who, and we would sit there and listen to it together. He's doing a good job of lifting that polystyrene, isn't he?
Yeah, fair play to him. He's selling that, isn't he?
You feel like halfway through he's just going to start laughing, going, I can't sell this.
Just chuck it over his shoulder.
Incredible bit of music here that really sells a scene in which nothing's going on.
Nothing's going on, and it looks borderline ridiculous anyway. Sutak.
Brilliant.
Life.
I've
always thought these mummies look ridiculous. I love their faces, but they ultimately look ridiculous, I think.
I quite like them. I mean, it's bizarre that they've got those big chest things. You think, what's that for? And then later on they crush someone's throat. And you think, oh, is that the sole purpose of that design?
I'd say the funny thing I always notice about these sort of estates like this is that when you see them, if you go to visit these locations nowadays, you find that they're always meticulously maintained. The gardens are always beautiful for tourism and everything's wonderful. But then when you look at sort of, this, like there's a couple of weeds you can see there and it's all looking a bit sort of dog-eared. And
yeah,
let's find out in time,
it's a disgrace.
We've changed to take more care of these places.
I'm writing to the National Trust as we speak.
That's what I would. Look at that old fence. Poor old Liz there having to just cart around in that dress all day.
There's a very unfriendly feel about this story, isn't there? It's very dangerous. I mean, he's been shot very unpleasantly, just an inch to the left, and that would have gone straight through his heart.
So and he's wandering around as well with a gun, and you're totally right, actually.
I mean, everyone dies in this story, don't they?
There's a lot of death. A lot of death.
And this is interesting. There's a sort of long section here which doesn't involve much dialogue. A lot of hiding and, being sought out by the mummy. Oh, look at that. It's classic Hammer horror type stuff, isn't it?
As well, with Dudley's music as well, just makes it that little bit extra, doesn't it?
Well, he has to take charge of all this, doesn't he? And really give emotional context. Because, even though I'm not saying it's dull what's happening, but
it could be dreadful if handled wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, there's only one other man that could have made this brilliant, and that is, of course, Carrie Blyton. Yeah, he'd definitely do. Dudders. If the mummies were walking around, he'd definitely do a kind of. And then he'd re-release it on a CD called "The Waltz of the Mummies." It would be.
So they must have had quite a budget for film on this, mustn't they?
Definitely, yeah. Well, be careful, Sarah. There are stinging nettles.
And you see very lovely bit of subtle camera directing here. They've deliberately done a handheld because she's feeling uncertain, so it gives the shot an uncertain feel. Whereas a lot of this other stuff is done on a set of sticks, tripods. Yeah.
A set of sticks. God, it does look brilliant though on film, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It looked like he was having a romantic encounter with the mummy there, where he turned around and looked. I love you. Okay.
Those bandages are so. Oh.
Now here's a trivial thing. I noticed the big difference between the Doctor's hair on location and the Doctor's hair in the studio, which becomes more and more obvious as the story goes on. Because look, his hair's curly here, but quite matted.
He's been wearing a hat, hasn't he?
Yeah. From wearing the hat. But also it's curls, whereas in the studio it's fuzzy.
Yeah.
Obviously his perm was falling out, and so they kept compensating by just fuzzing it up. I love the way Sutek caws by playing an organ badly.
Can't even do it very well.
Just spend the entire commentary just going Sutek, 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 Sutek. I'll follow them. Just right, left a bit, right, that's it.
Yep, you're on it. Yeah. It's all right.
Oops. I love shots like that.
Oh, here's Mr. Bronson.
With his swimming hat on. What's the name of this actor?
That's Michael Sheard, isn't it?
Michael Sheard, that's right. I can never remember his name. Yes,
Michael Sheard.
He's a very, sadly no longer with us, but he was a very gregarious character.
I just always remember him touching his ear in Remembrance of the Daleks.
Oh, yes.
I obey.
With the little thing behind his ear.
Oh, he's great.
He, my friend Barnaby Edwards always reminds me of the story when we were recording the first series of Paul McGann audios, and Michael Sheard was with us, and we were having lunch somewhere, and he was having some healthy food, and Barnaby had ordered some chips. And Michael Sheard leant over and said, "They call me the chip stealer," and took one of his chips. And Barney thought, that doesn't excuse it, does it? If you just announce who you are, just like, "They call me the bank robber," as you blow up someone's safe. You think, oh, that's all right, he said it. And Michael seemed to think it was all right to steal people's chips as long as he announced himself as a chip stealer.
I mean, out of people that are allowed to steal my chips, I'd probably give him the benefit of the doubt, because he seems like quite an all right chap.
He was such a lovely. I mean, in the behind the scenes thing, he said, I said to Paddy, "Look, love," it's such a old actor thing, to say "darling" and "love" without even thinking about it. Not "oh, darling," "oh, love," just say. I said to him, "Look, darling." I thought, David Troughton's like that, which is why he hardly ever does interviews, because he sounds so camp. He's going, "Well, darling,"
Yes, well, darling. I mean, Michael Sheard was one of those chaps. I grew, because of my generation, I grew up really fearing him as Mr. Bronson. Actually.
He was horrid, wasn't he?
Really frightening chap.
What are the other parts he's played in Doctor Who?
Well, he's done so many, hasn't he? Doctor Who.
Well, he was in Remembrance of the Daleks, as you say, playing a school teacher. A little JNT joke there, I think.
He's Murgrave in Castrovalva.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He was in Invisible Enemy.
He was.
Dr. Summers in Mind of Evil.
That's right.
And
he was
Ross
like Joe's
in
friend.
The Plague.
The what?
It says here, The Plague.
What's The Plague?
An episode from the Ark.
Was he in that as
apparently,
well?
Yeah, apparently.
I didn't know that either.
According to IMDb.
Well, he says that he got the part in this through Peter Grimwade, who was the AFM. Ooh, off he goes.
That's brilliant, that is, isn't it? What a contraption to have.
It's great, isn't it? Yes.
You can tell he's really enjoying doing this, isn't he?
It won't turn off because of Sutek's signal. We know that one's going to blow up, yes. Now, this brings up something which I think we should tackle.
Yesterday's lunch?
Pyramids of Mars, this story is called. It turns out there's only one pyramid.
Yeah.
So why is it called Pyramids of Mars?
We had 3 or 4 pyramids, but we didn't have the money, so... We just...
And he is in a pyramid on Mars, isn't he?
I mean, there could be another one. We just don't see it. It could be miles away.
Yeah, but they never refer to more than one pyramid being on Mars.
I suppose it just sounds better, doesn't it, really? It's that classic thing of who's going to care and nobody's ever going to watch it again.
Yeah. I love it when back in the days when the Doctor didn't use the sonic screwdriver for everything. He had these funny little devices and would write notes and stuff. I loved that.
The thing is, as well, I don't see... I think they're missing a trick, like the BBC at the moment, because they rely a lot on the sonic screwdriver. It sells well as toys. But if he has lots of... he or she has lots of devices, you can just sell those and make even more money. Seems silly to me. Just my thoughts.
Yeah,
it's got his flies undone there.
Who has?
The mummies.
No.
But they're big gaping triangles, anyway.
That sounds even worse than flies open, big gaping triangles. That sounds really rude.
Oh, gosh, yes, it does. I meant it purely in a Doctor Who monster context, you understand?
That's all right, then. That was an early working title for this story, actually, The Gaping Triangles.
Yes, I wonder why it wasn't commissioned. Funny, that.
Yes.
Yes, you're right, he's got a bit more of a fluffier...
Yeah, it's okay. It's in the next episode it becomes really obvious, and the cut between the 2 episodes is...
But I dare say that he'd wear a hat to the studio, probably.
Oh, it's all going to kick off soon, isn't it? What's he done with the organ sound here? It's kind of...
It's modulated, isn't it? A little bit. Well, tremolo, isn't it? Tremmed.
Yeah. Oh, but you can do that with an organ, can't you? There's a tremolo.
I think this is done in post, definitely, because it's a pipe organ.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, he's not. Could be any organ because he's not actually playing it, is he?
No. Well, Dudley was fond of having organ music in the program anyway, wasn't it? It's often underlying bits of the action, isn't it? Well, look, it carries on playing even though he's still.
I've never really thought about that. Oh, here's that great bit. This is glorious, isn't it?
Oh yes. The bit of Sutek coming out and killing him, sorry to spoil it, folks, was used in the Lively Arts documentary Who's Doctor Who. But they used a bit that was sort of undubbed, interestingly, because perhaps when they made that documentary, it hadn't been finished. I don't know, he has to look down to see where to put his feet. That's a lovely effect, isn't it?
This is absolutely... I mean, you can see where they've done it before on the Velvet, but...
Yeah.
Getting attacked by a big bin bag.
That's beautiful, that. I bet that was leather as well. With rubber gloves. How did they do the effect of when he puts his hand on him and all the dry ice happens?
Pipes up the... I reckon it's pipes up the sleeves.
Pipes up the sleeves. The smoke pours out beautifully.
The smoke's still going. It's very effective.
You are only in episode 1.
Very
cut
frightening,
away,
though.
cut back, the effect. Cue now.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah. Gift of death. You can hear the smoke machine going tss, tss, in the background.
What a terrifying thing for a children's television program.
Yeah,
I bring
horrible.
Sutek's gift of death.
It's horrible, isn't it?
It's pretty grim, isn't it? But brilliant telly.
My goodness, that whizzed past.
It did. Oh, joy though.
Playing
what a joy.
at a double speed.
What a joy.
Peter Maycock.
Sutek. Well, there you have it. Doctor
Love
Who,
it.
Pyramids of Mars, episode 1, for your delectable pleasure. If you've listened along with us, do email in to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. Let us know and your thoughts on this episode, and if you agree with our comments.
Yes. Well, there we are. Yes. Should I phone Jamie just to see?
Yeah, phone Jamie, see how he's diddling.
There's a good chance we won't get him.
Sutek.
I sound pleased about that, don't I? Let's just turn the volume. Oh, well, going the wrong way. There we go. I predict a no-show. Oh, he's there.
Oh, well done.
Hello, Nick. Look, I'm just with my granny.
Hello.
She looks most bemused. I'm just going to pop out in your garden to take the call, Granny.
The last time you showed your granny me on FaceTime, she just thought that I was you because she just saw another bald head.
I'll let you know what happens this time.
Hold on, she's calling the police, I think.
Yes, I was just on the way between places and I see her. So
that's nice. What a lovely grandson you are.
Well, once every 2 months, yes.
The rest of the time he's a complete waste of space.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you want? What are you doing? I know you're doing the show.
Yeah, we've just been watching Pyramids of Mars, episode 1, commentary.
Nice. I haven't watched Pyramids of Mars for years. That's strange. I must watch it again.
Benji, tell him what you think of it.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Well, what a good summary. I seem to remember thinking that the last time I watched it. Although I have a weird feeling the last time I watched it was on VHS. It's that long.
Wow.
Since I watched it. So, fascinating fact there. Not.
Well, yeah, I'll assess that. We're running out of time, really, so just a quick question for you, Benji. You've got a question for him?
Yeah, what's the weirdest thing that a guest has done at your house?
That you can tell us about.
I was going to say, I think probably not repeatable. I'll tell you what.
Yes.
Inadvertently stolen a book about cows.
Funnily enough, that's the name of the title of a book I'm writing now. Inadvertently stole a book about cows.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, it's a West End show I'm writing.
Nice. I'm looking forward to the musical elements of it. Yeah, they were fascinated reading this book called Beautiful Cows, and by mistake put it down in a pile of their clothes, packed it and took it away, and that was a year ago, and they still have it now.
Did they put the book to good use though? Was it like a cow farmer?
No, because they live in Lewisham.
Which is in London, for anyone who doesn't know. It's a very urban area, I think it's safe to say.
Urban cow farm.
So next time I'm going through Lewisham and I see a cow, I'll know who the culprit is.
Yeah, if you could ask them to return the book, that would be great.
Well, on that cow bombshell, unless you have anything to add, Jamie, that you want to share?
Moo.
Thank you. I'll say ta-ta for now. Ta-ta. And lots of love to your granny.
I shall pass it on and she'll be most confused. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Good. When I was pressing stop then, I almost pressed someone else's number. An unidentified one. That would have been weird, wouldn't it?
Hello there.
Yes, I just... Yes, goodbye. Now, so, what we doing next week?
How about then next week, Nick? What about if we actually watch a Nero Wolfe mystery?
It's a deal.
Episode 1, The Doorbell Rang.
Okay, we better like it. Otherwise, Adam Graham is going to get it right in the neck.
But it's always good to challenge ourselves and take on the word of the listeners.
Yes.
So why not? Yes, I think it'd be The Doorbell Rang. Although there's one, I'll have to work it out because there's another one here.
Oh,
that is the Golden Spiders. Oh, there's a pilot. The Golden Spiders is the pilot. So now, do we watch the pilot or just episode 1?
I think we have to watch the pilot, don't we?
I guess so. Yeah, that's okay. In that case, it is the Golden Spiders.
I prefer the title. All right, then, time to get close to the microphone.
Excellent. Well, goodbye.
Goodbye, Sute. Pressing Sutek. Stop. Now. Ka-chunk. Sutek.
The Destroyer.